I was queuing for a medical checkup when I realized the doctor was my ex-boyfriend. His examination was quite forceful, he practically made me gag. He glanced at the handsome man behind me and sneered, "Your new boyfriend looks quite young." I froze for a moment, then quickly pulled up my mask and fled the scene. Behind me, I heard my cousin's dramatic wailing. The poor thing's voice was hoarse after the examination. The male doctor today was a right nutter. He nearly punctured my throat. "Keep it down, or next time he might go for our noses," I whispered. "What?" "He's going to examine our bums next time," my cousin exclaimed, shocked. Several elderly gentlemen in the crowd visibly flinched, clearly having overheard our conversation. As my cousin complained about the discomfort of the throat examination, I quickly grabbed his arm and dragged him away. While he was still fretting about whether they'd really examine his bum tomorrow, I had already placed 2 large bowls of meat in front of him. My cousin immediately grimaced, "If I keep eating like this, I'll develop hemorrhoids." "Sis, can't we have some vegetables?" We hadn't managed to get any vegetables for 5 days straight. Thankfully, we still had some frozen meat in the freezer from our Christmas stockpile, allowing us to enjoy our meat-based meals. The problem was, too much meat upset our stomachs, and constipation made life even more miserable. In the afternoon, we heard that the community was going to distribute supplies, including bananas and greens. My cousin and I nearly wept with joy. I didn't even take my afternoon nap, spending the entire afternoon waiting by the door for the supplies. From 2 o'clock until 6, I waited. Finally, they arrived. The knock on the door was like music to my ears. I opened the door with a beaming smile, about to unleash a torrent of thank yous, when I froze. Oliver Hughes stood at the door, holding bags full of fruits and vegetables. He looked like a hero coming to our rescue. I almost forgot all our past issues and was ready to welcome him in. You're volunteering now?" I smiled at him, quickly reaching for the bags. "These are the supplies, right?" "I'll take them. You're living together?" Oliver stared at the pair of trainers by the door and hid the bags behind his back. I grabbed at thin air. I lunged for the bags again, but he held them above his head. After a few failed attempts to reach them, I became frustrated and angry. "Oliver, you're being ridiculous. What's going on?" Hearing the argument at the door, my cousin rushed out of the bathroom, his hair still covered in soap suds and only a towel around his waist. Seeing Oliver blocking me in the doorway while I clutched half a celery stalk, he didn't hesitate to grab a chair and approach us. My cousin bravely pushed me behind him and shouted at Oliver, "Who do you think you are? Don't think I'm scared just because you're taller than me. Harry Carter isn't a pushover." Oliver completely ignored him and coldly said, "Get lost." Harry was about to charge at him with his fists raised, but I quickly grabbed his towel. "He's my ex-boyfriend." "Ex what?" Harry looked back at me, his face reddening. "You could have said earlier." "I thought he was here to nick our veg." Oliver couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "Amelia Turner, can't you stop choosing men based solely on their looks?" After Oliver left, Harry swept his wet fringe back and grinned at me. "Sis, it sounds like your ex was complimenting my good looks, wasn't he?" I picked up the vegetables from the doorway and rolled my eyes at him. "You've got some nerve." In my memory, Oliver Hughes never easily praised others. But on our graduation day, he blushed and gritted his teeth to compliment me in public. "Amelia Turner, if you use the persistence you have in chasing me to run a marathon, you'd definitely be the champion." I grinned shamelessly, "Then can I run a marathon in your heart?" For the first time, Oliver took the initiative to approach me and offered, "Don't even think about it." Oliver was right about one thing: my initial criteria for finding a man was based on looks. But what's wrong with that? Men are visual creatures, so why can't we girls be visual beauties too? So, at Oliver's birthday party, I made another move. I prepared a special birthday surprise for him. I bought a video online of people holding up signs. As Oliver was about to make a wish and blow out the candles, I asked the waiter to connect my Bluetooth and project it onto the big screen. A row of girls in floral dresses held up Oliver's photos, shouting birthday wishes. "Happy birthday to my Ollie," they cheered. To finish it off, they performed a collective twerking dance. Thomas Shaw, Oliver's best friend, laughed uncontrollably and asked me, "Amelia, Are you trying to woo Oliver or prank him? Of course I was wooing him. I looked at Oliver awkwardly and said, special wishes for a special person. Oliver smirked, thanks, but I can't accept this. After that day, I stopped bothering Oliver. Perhaps his cold gaze that day had hurt my pride too much. My cousin Harry, who was standing nearby, asked curiously, Sis, how did you manage to date your ex-boyfriend? You don't seem like the type he'd usually go for. That's a good question. I put down my kitchen knife, tossed my long hair over my shoulder, and said, a wild rose in no man's land, what man could resist that? Harry burst into laughter. You? More like a wild weed in no man's land. I cursed and pushed him towards the door. The idiot still stuck his head in the doorway and teased me. Sis, I think he was just jealous of me earlier. If there's no fundamental issue between you two, why not get back together? I might get free meals every day then. Get lost. Actually, Harry wasn't wrong. I was indeed a wild weed, and the wild rose was someone else. Her name was Emily Hughes, a doctor in the male reproductive surgery department who worked at the same hospital as Oliver. The receptionist at the hospital was a fan of mine and bought all the magazines I had modeled for. Every time she saw me, she would kindly warn, watch out for Dr. Hughes from the male reproductive department. She always finds excuses to see Dr. Hughes. I laughed and said, Oliver? I doubt she can handle him. I had been pursuing Oliver since our first year at university, and it took me 5 years to finally win him over. During that time, Oliver never lacked beautiful admirers of various types, but in the end, he chose me as his girlfriend. I once asked Oliver what he liked about me. Although he didn't answer me directly, I could read from his eyes that he liked my beauty mixed with a bit of silliness. During that time, I often wore sexy little dresses to visit Oliver at the hospital, bringing some excitement to his monotonous life. The hospital's fire escape stairwell was our fixed spot for brief intimate moments. Every time I saw his handsome face turning slightly red, pretending to be calm as he straightened the white coat I had deliberately messed up, I couldn't help but feel secretly thrilled. Although he would still say to me, can you please stop coming to the hospital to find me when you're free? I'm very busy. But whenever I hugged him and stood on tiptoes asking for a kiss, he would always kiss me gently yet restrainedly. Then hold down my restless hands and say, be patient, I'll come to you tonight. Just when I thought I had finally captured this aloof flower completely, I suddenly discovered Emily Hughes's secret. That day, I secretly went to pick up Oliver after work. I saw Emily sitting in Oliver's office, feeding the fish in the decorative bowl one pellet at a time. That decorative bowl was a gift I had given to Oliver, and we had bought the fish food together at the pet market. How dare Emily, an outsider, admire and play with it? Are you doctors allowed to move around freely during work hours? I snatched the fish food from her hand and asked fiercely, why are you sitting in my boyfriend's chair? Of course not, Emily smiled politely and gently, but this hospital belongs to my family. What's wrong with me walking around in my own home? Well, it turns out she's a hidden rich girl. What she said next shocked me even more. You're Amelia Turner, right? I'll be straightforward. If Oliver hadn't allowed it, I wouldn't be here helping him feed the fish. What do you mean? Oliver isn't that kind of person. Emily leaned in close to me, whispering, you know best whether he's that kind of person or not. I used the same method you did to pursue him. Oliver isn't as gentlemanly in bed as he appears normally. He even said my figure is better than yours. How I pursued Oliver was something only he and I knew. No one else could have known unless Oliver told her himself. The blood in my body seemed to suddenly flow backwards, rushing to the top of my head. Miss Turner, if you enjoy this kind of relationship, you can continue being Oliver's lover. I don't mind sharing him with one more person. Emily smiled shamelessly across from me, while I felt like I had been stripped of a layer of skin. After a few minutes of standoff with her, I grabbed my bag and left. I threw the decorative bowl from Oliver's desk into the rubbish bin on my way out. Later, when Oliver called me, I immediately suggested breaking up. He asked me why, and I said I was tired of sleeping with him. Oliver was always like this, calm to a frightening degree except when in bed. On the other end of the phone, his voice was slightly hoarse as he calmly asked, "Are you really tired of sleeping with me?" I was on the verge of tears, but I still clung to my last shred of dignity and answered him. Yes, I've got my eye on the new male model at our company. His pecs are bigger than your head. Oliver hung up the phone immediately. That night, he blocked me on all forms of contact. Dramatically, the next day I received a call from the receptionist at Oliver's department. She told me Emily had attempted suicide in Oliver's office and was now in the ICU. It turned out she suffered from erotomania, believing that every man who looked at her twice was in love with her. She even imagined she had slept with Oliver and went to the obstetrics department claiming she was pregnant with his child. When they did an ultrasound, not only was there no baby, but her hymen was still intact. Emily wouldn't give up and continued to make a scene. Finally, they took her to the psychiatric department for an examination, and she was indeed diagnosed with a mental illness. In this whole affair, Oliver was the biggest victim, and because I had spoken those harsh words when breaking up, I successfully cut off all contact with him. My mind was in chaos. The knife in my hand slipped, cutting my finger and slicing off a good portion of my nail. Blood immediately began to flow. Harry rushed in and saw the carrot sticks I had cut lying on the chopping board. He cursed while grabbing a dishcloth to wrap around my hand. I wanted to say that I used to study medicine and could handle a wound myself. But Harry wouldn't listen and insisted on dragging me downstairs. He shouted so terrifyingly along the way that it scared the volunteers, who came running over. Before understanding the real situation, they surrounded me asking, "Whose hand is broken?" "Little miss, how did you break your hand?" I had just raised my head, about to explain, when I saw a familiar figure running towards us, looking quite anxious. So, I decided to go along with it. I leaned weakly against Harry's shoulder and said, "I did it to myself by accident." "Doctor! Is there a doctor?" "Quickly, my sister is losing too much blood, she's about to die." Harry held my shoulder, shouting urgently. "Die what die? Can't he speak properly?" I was just about to take the opportunity to pinch Harry's thigh when Oliver pulled me into his arms from across the way. He held me too tightly, all I could hear was the pounding of his heart in my ears. "Amelia Turner, who taught you to wrap a wound with a dishcloth? You're a medical student, and even though you chose to become a model after graduation, don't you even know the basics of first aid?" Oliver held my forearm to examine the wound, his voice trembling as he removed the blood-stained dishcloth. "I'm sorry, I was thinking about someone while I was cutting vegetables," I said, lowering my head pitifully. Oliver frowned, silently bandaging my wound. I looked at his once fair and slender hands, now peeling from prolonged wearing of medical gloves, and felt a twinge in my heart. "If anything happens, you can call me," Oliver suddenly said. I looked up, unexpectedly meeting his gaze. His eyes were deep, seemingly hiding emotions that had been pent up for a long time. "I can't remember it," I replied sheepishly. "I deleted your number in a fit of anger last time." Oliver's face darkened, and he stopped talking to me. Before he left, he looked at Harry and asked, "Are you Amelia's brother?" "What kind of brother?" "Just the kind with a bit of blood relation." "You misunderstood me before, and I never had a chance to explain." As I watched Oliver's retreating figure, I felt inexplicably empty inside. After dinner, downstairs they started calling for people to queue up for checkups again. They said today's doctor was a handsome guy, and it would be a shame not to go see him. I hid a tube of hand cream in my sleeve, planning to give it to Oliver during the checkup. Unfortunately, I didn't see him that night. When I got home, I realized not only had I not seen Oliver, but my troublesome brother had disappeared as well. It was nearly 11 o'clock at night, and Harry still hadn't returned. Just as I was about to go look for him, I heard the sound of a key turning in the lock, and the door opened. I was stunned to see that it was Oliver who came in. I took a step back. How do you have a key to my flat?" Perhaps it was my retreating movement that provoked him, but Oliver suddenly stepped forward, pinning me against the back of the door. The front door slammed shut behind us. He removed his face mask, revealing a face still captivating enough to bewitch anyone. His usually clear and dispassionate eyes now seemed like turbulent seas. His hand fell to my chin, gently caressing it. I caught a faint whiff of antiseptic. "Who gave me the key back then, allowing me to come and go as I pleased?" He lowered his head, staring at me, his voice cold. Or have you given out so many keys that you've forgotten? Did you give one to that male model whose pecs are bigger than my head too? I think I might have given keys to. I looked at his angry expression and smiled. My dad, my mum, my gran, and my cousin. Oliver frowned. Your brother is another matter. I've sent him to volunteer at the community center. He's staying there from tonight. You sent Harry to volunteer? In exchange for 3 square meals a day, with a good balance of meat and vegetables. Harry, my dear brother, so easily manipulated. I glanced at Oliver in front of me, suddenly realizing something was amiss. I asked him, if my brother's gone to volunteer, why have you come to my flat? What do you think? Oliver countered. I didn't understand his meaning until he stepped forward, gripped my waist, and lifted me onto the console table in the entryway. His deep, magnetic voice fell on my ear along with his kisses. Amelia Turner, even if you grew tired of me before. After all this time, don't you think you should be missing me by now? His ragged breath brushed against the nape of my neck, his tone like a hook, constantly testing my resolve. I couldn't push him away, nor did I want to. I even felt a bit like crying. So, is this why you came to find me tonight? Oliver took my hand and placed it on his body. Through the thin shirt, I could clearly feel the firm, beautiful contours. No, it's because I heard you say you missed me earlier today. The mood was quite good, and things were progressing naturally, when suddenly the doorbell rang. I patted his back awkwardly. Just a moment, I need to go downstairs to get something. Oliver nuzzled his nose against mine, restraining himself as he asked, "What is it?" I answered sheepishly, "Some fizzy drinks." "I'll go get them," Oliver said, looking at my injured hand as he buttoned up his shirt. "Wait for me." After Oliver went downstairs, he soon returned with a large cardboard box. Because the contents were a bit embarrassing, I hurriedly stepped in front of Oliver, trying to snatch the knife from his hand. "Careful," Oliver frowned and asked, "Amelia, is there anything you still can't let me see?" Well, Oliver and I had been intimate countless times. He'd even seen me without makeup, so what did it matter what was in the box? I smiled. "Nothing, I'm all yours." The light in the entryway was dim and intimate. After hearing my words, the corners of Oliver's mouth turned up in an almost imperceptible smile. The box opened, and a small pink bottle rolled out, stopping at his feet. Oliver picked it up and looked down at the contents of the box, his smile gradually freezing. I scratched my head. Was Oliver overreacting? I just couldn't go to the loo, so I urgently ordered a box of. Why are these things? A whole box full of colorful condoms. With and without special features, all sorts of types. Bloody hell, where were my probiotic powder sachets I'd bulk ordered? Oliver held the bottle in front of me, his expression now very unpleasant. "Amelia Turner, while others are stockpiling food, you're hoarding contraceptives?" I was on the verge of tears. "If I said I didn't buy these, would you believe me?" Oliver tapped the delivery address on the box with his finger, clearly not believing me. Oliver and I had been broken up for nearly 5 months when we finally met again today. In his eyes, I certainly hadn't stockpiled this box of items for him. Just as I was about to show him my group purchase history, someone knocked on my door. "See? I told you. It must be a mistake. The neighbor must have written the wrong flat number and is looking for me." I smiled at Oliver and quickly opened the door. This time, both Oliver and I were stunned. Standing at the door was a trendy guy with red hair, wearing a deep V-neck suit. If you didn't know better, you'd think he was a boy band member who had just stepped off stage. The trendy redhead was named George Nelson, the star photographer at our company. Because his previous flat's lease had expired, he wanted to find a place closer to the office, and the flat above mine happened to be available for rent. So we became neighbors. The day before yesterday, he had just split a box of probiotics with us. Unaware of the situation, George saw me and asked, "Babe, has our happy water arrived?" Brilliant, I've been holding it in for 3 days. The pink plastic bottle was already deformed in Oliver's hand, his knuckles white, his eyes filled with barely contained anger. "Oliver, we really didn't buy this. If you don't believe me, ask him. We just bought some gut probiotics, that's all." I said, frantically winking at George, who was leaning against the doorframe watching the show, urging him to quickly explain. George looked Oliver up and down and explained with a smile, "That's right, you might have misunderstood Amelia. She's been really good at our company. We've worked together for so long, and I've never heard her mention any men." I glared at George. How was this bloke making things worse? Irresponsible, non-committal, always detached from things, with a 3-minute attention span. "Amelia Turner, you've always been like this." Oliver's eyes looked at me coldly, each word clear and distinct. "If you were going to get bored after dating me, why did you flirt with me in the first place?" I was at a loss for words, watching helplessly as Oliver turned and went downstairs. George put his hands in his pockets and smirked. "Your boyfriend?" I stared blankly at the stairwell, my eyes reddening. "My dream guy." "So your dream guy got angry because we arranged to cloud poop together? I'm really annoyed right now." I handed the culprit to George. "Take this, although you might not need it. You really brought it for me." George smiled at me sheepishly. "This is a new product from the company we collaborated with for the last ad shoot. The boss said they'd send some to the male colleagues at the company. I guess they mixed up our addresses." Why did they choose this time? Indeed, why did they choose this time to deliver? It caused Oliver, who was almost cooked in my arms, to run away again. The next day, during the checkup, I was completely listless. As luck would have it, George was right in front of me in the queue. Oliver's gaze at us was so cold it made me shiver. I don't know if I was overthinking, but our queue seemed to be all women, and each one was carefully dressed up. There were even 2 hotties wearing stilettos over 10 centimeters high, which was just ridiculous. When they saw George yelping as Oliver swabbed him, several of the more timid ones visibly shrank back. I walked up to Oliver, took off my mask, and was about to open my mouth to coax him. Then I heard the beautiful doctor kindly remind me, "No need to open your mouth, today we're testing the nose." I quickly shut my mouth in embarrassment. Oliver's movements were very gentle when he took my sample, but my nose turned red, and I looked at him with teary eyes, trying to win him back with a pitiful look. After swabbing my nose, Oliver didn't even look at me, and what he said sounded like something a scumbag would say. "Don't hold up the queue, next." The hottie behind me was urging me impatiently, so I had to get up and leave. The hottie made kitten-like whimpers while getting her test done. It made me feel numb. As she left, she slipped a piece of paper into Oliver's hand, and Oliver? He actually nodded at her. I was furious. When Oliver stood up to disinfect his hands, I saw a contact number on his back. Next to it was written, "I want to get married." Looking at the handwriting, it was messy, like it came from my good brother Harry. Sure enough, I saw my cousin, the fully protected volunteer, nearby. Harry only had his eyes exposed, and when he saw me, he ran away. I chased after him and questioned him in a low voice, "How dare you mess with my man?" Harry snorted, "It's not my fault, ex-bro told me to stick it on." Impossible. Oliver would never do that. Sis, to be honest. Ex-bro is so excellent, why do you keep playing hard to get with him? I didn't listen to a word Harry said. I watched as the girls in the queue slipped notes to Oliver one after another, my heart breaking. I steeled myself, snatched the megaphone from Harry's hand, and shouted, "Thank you all for your cooperation and support of my husband, Oliver Hughes. Today, whether you flashed a heart sign or passed a note, I've taken note of each one of you. Later, everyone is welcome to come to flat 303 in building 51 for a piece of wedding cake." The crowd stirred, then burst into applause, with cheers and whistles rising all around. Harry was also stunned. "Sis, you're truly wild." I lowered my hand nervously, returning the megaphone to Harry. "Is there something wrong with her head?" someone in the crowd began to question. "Maybe she's gone mad from being cooped up at home." The word love delusion and what Emily had said to me suddenly struck my mind like lightning. Emily had said, "However you hooked Oliver in the first place, I used the same method." How did I hook Oliver in the first place? Come to think of it, maybe I really am mental. Back then, when I found out Oliver was getting close to a female colleague, I instantly gave up on being happily single. I'd go to the hospital every few days to find Oliver, claiming I had lovesickness and dreamt of him daily. Neither counseling nor medication helped. Oliver finally got annoyed one day and asked, "So what would help?" I was truly madly in love with Oliver. When he leaned his face close to mine, I hooked my arms around his neck and kissed him. I shamelessly said, "I need to cuddle with Dr. Hughes every day to get better." I thought he would reject me again. But that day, he seemed to have taken the wrong medicine, even his voice was exceptionally gentle. He said, "All right, let's try one course of treatment first." Thinking about it now, Oliver only said we could try, not that he loved me too. Just as I was wondering if I really had love delusion syndrome, a cool voice cut through the surrounding noise and fell upon the crowd. "Amelia Turner, what you just said. We'll talk about it later." At this point, I really couldn't bear it anymore. I interrupted Oliver and turned to run. I didn't want to run. If I had the chance, I would have stayed to hear Oliver say a few more heartless words, so I could finally give up. But my strong physical reaction wouldn't allow it. If I didn't get home to the loo soon, I'd really become famous. My bulk-bought probiotics finally arrived in the early hours yesterday. I looked at them, inexplicably angry, and furiously drank 2 glasses after ripping open 2 packets. Now I'm standing by the toilet, leaning against the wall, my waist, knees and legs weak, feeling dizzy. Worse still, after flushing several times, I realized the toilet was clogged. I tried plunging it myself for ages. In the end, I managed to unblock it, but also succeeded in making myself pass out from the stench. When I came to, the room was full of people, all noisy. Only Oliver, sitting beside me, was calm and reserved, still looking gorgeous under the incandescent light. I grabbed his hand, my voice hoarse like a duck. "Are you here for a poo too? You can go to the public toilets. Give me back the keys, I don't want to see you ever again." Oliver stared at me, the corners of his eyes red, gently holding my hand still as I fidgeted with the foredrip. "Even if you don't want to see me now, you can't. We're in the hospital." I lay on my bed, feeling utterly hopeless. Due to severe diarrhea and dehydration, I'd only just recovered after 2 bags of glucose drip. Oliver had been busy helping me collect supplies, organize my suitcase, and arrange my personal items since he finished dinner. I frowned at the small bag on Oliver's bed that only contained a few pieces of clothing. "Why did you only bring so little for yourself?" Oliver continued arranging my things without looking up. Time was limited. Yet he managed to pack every single item I needed into the suitcase. I couldn't hold back my emotions, burying my face in the blanket and crying loudly. "Oliver, for the sake of my impending death, let's make up. Let me enjoy what little time I have left." Oliver ignored the strange looks from those around us, gently patting my back to comfort me. Patients without any underlying conditions generally recover on their own. But I have a very, very serious underlying condition. "What underlying condition?" Oliver gripped my shoulder tightly, his voice trembling slightly. "Lovesickness, of course. Dr. Hughes, it's been so long since we finished one course of treatment, when are we starting the next?" As soon as I finished speaking, Oliver pulled me into his embrace and said, "As long as you need me, I'll always be here." The old lady in the next bed couldn't help but laugh after hearing this. "Amelia, is this your little baby?" The volunteer distributing snacks seemed to know Oliver. He approached our bed and teased Oliver with a smile. "You rascal, we're so close. You could have just told me you wanted an extra orange for your girlfriend. No need to make up a story about a baby at home." "James, just hand out your stuff," Oliver interrupted him. James chuckled and secretly placed an extra bag of bread on my table. "For Oliver's baby," he winked. I thanked him shyly. Suddenly, James stared at my face, frozen for a few seconds. "Oliver, am I seeing things? You finally got the girl of your dreams? If you're done, you can leave now." Oliver stood up, using his 6-foot-something frame to block James' view. James awkwardly leaned to the side, peeking around to greet me. "Hello, campus beauty. You probably don't know me, but I used to be Oliver's roommate in first year before I dropped out." "Me? Campus beauty?" I was puzzled. "Oh yes, during the Freshers Week talent show, you stole the hearts of so many lads when you appeared on stage," James said, glancing at Oliver. Blimey, I had no idea about my own charm. After James left, I tugged at Oliver's sleeve, asking shyly, "Oliver, was I really your dream girl back in first year?" I thought Oliver would coldly reply, "You're overthinking it." But he said, "Yes, not just in first year. For all 5 years at uni." That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned restlessly. Oliver lifted my blanket and slipped in next to me. The bed was small, so he pressed close. "What's wrong? Not feeling well?" Oliver habitually extended his arm for me to use as a pillow. I wiggled my bum, trying to push him away. "Go sleep in your own bed. Stop moving, Amelia." His breath hitched, his large hand gripping my waist. His voice in the darkness was particularly alluring as he suppressed it. "You're not used to this place. I'll keep you company and we can chat for a bit." Damn, Oliver saw right through my gossipy heart. I asked him, "If you fancied me, why didn't you say anything? You weren't interested in me at first either. You noticed that?" I admitted, a fangirl had no time for love. In uni, outside of classes, I was either obsessing over celebrities or reading romance novels. When my roommates were raving about Oliver, I was too engrossed in a novel to care about real men. It wasn't until the second term of first year that I finally noticed Oliver's good looks. Why pine after untouchable celebs when I could have a boyfriend just as handsome, right? Oliver talked about the past, then suddenly looked at me seriously. "Amelia, there's something I've always wanted to ask you." "Go on." "Who's Victor?" "I wanted to confess to you in first year, but I overheard you calling this guy hubby." "And what about Kilo and Lucien? Were they all your ex-boyfriends?" I couldn't bear to listen anymore. "Oliver, don't you play video games? They're all game characters." I even opened the game on my phone to show him. Oliver looked and couldn't help but laugh. He tightened his arm around me, his tone much lighter. "Amelia, do you know how long I was depressed because of those blokes?" After that, Oliver moved in with me, and we spent our days shamelessly cuddling together. George from upstairs knocked on our door again. He was holding a cardboard box, looking at me with dark circles under his eyes. "Love, I reckon you might need these. In exchange, could you possibly?" I glanced at the contents of the box and quickly grabbed a large bag of vegetables from the kitchen, telling him to help himself. But George refused, saying, "Could you give a single lad a break? The floors aren't exactly soundproof." I coughed awkwardly, but before I could apologize, George dropped the box and ran off in fright. I returned to the kitchen with the groceries, where Oliver was warming up some milk for me. I hugged him from behind and playfully said, "It's my birthday today. I want you to make me your special birthday pasta." "Ollie darling, you haven't forgotten my birthday, have you?" "Of course not. I've even prepared a gift in advance." Oliver turned around, enveloping me in his arms. "Is this the gift?" I closed my eyes and puckered my lips expectantly. "It's too early in the morning for that, you minx," Oliver teased. This unromantic man cupped my face, pulled a silly face, and then promptly ushered me out of the kitchen. Feeling a bit miffed, I sat on the sofa and sulkily scrolled through my phone. Suddenly, a group by thread in our neighborhood chat caught my attention. It was for cakes. Without a second thought, I clicked on it. What I saw left me stunned. There was already a long list of participants in the group buy. And the messages from all the neighbors were identical. "Miss Turner, please marry Mr. Hughes." A new message popped up at the bottom. The profile picture showed it was from Oliver. It read, "Miss Turner, we just need you to complete the group. Will you marry me?"